It says here that the Yuba Sutter Arts Council is awarding me a grant to help with my residency with the Lady Washington. My God. The folks over at Yuba Sutter Arts Council are a bunch of swell guys. The absolute best. How can I ever thank them? Let's ask Kaba the Camel. What do you say, Kaba the Camel? Make a drink in their honor? I concur. Good evening, sea dogs, swabbies, and scallywags, landlubbers, slackers, and sad sacks. Welcome to this week's exciting, action-packed episode of Before the Mast. A drink where a show where I make you a drink that drink, and then loosely connect that drink with a story from my interesting past. Why should you want to watch this guy drink and tell his life story? Well, when do you think you're ever going to get chased through the jungles of Bali by a pimp's three-legged pit bull? Or meet a Mexican at a dive bar in Yokosuka and find out his parents are from Germany and Japan? Or try to take the AK-47 out of a really upset guard's hands in the United Arab Emirates because you're in a drunken stupor? I guess I haven't told that one yet. Maybe next time. Well, like I tell my kids, I've gone through all this crazy shit, so you don't have to. Now grab your ice-filled Collins glass, and let's beat feet to the Laka Laka Lounge for spirited refreshment. Man, that was a hike. Whew. Tonight's potion is the Suffering Bastard. Now, if you're a purist, this take on the Suffering Bastard might rankle your feathers a little bit. The original Suffering Bastard has bourbon and gin as its base spirits. Most recipes call for soda water to be sprayed on top. We aren't going to do that. First of all, I like rum. Rum is good. Second of all, I don't really do fizzy drinks. Why, you ask? Because the people I live with get upset if I get gassy. So tonight's recipe is a recipe I shamelessly lifted from the Pussard's Rum website. The link to that is below in the description. But also it can be found in Trader Vic's Bartender's Guide Revised. That book is older than me. The history of this drink, like its recipes, have multiple origins. But the main idea is that back during World War II, Shepherd's Hotel in Cairo, Egypt. I've been to Cairo and I lived in Egypt. Not quite as long as Moses, but then long enough. They served this drink to the Allied soldiers who complained about the quality of liquor after celebrating, perhaps a little too extensively, their victory over Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. A Shepherd's Hotel barman gave this to the victorious Brits and Yanks as a hangover cure. Jesus. Now that is a story for the more well-known bourbon and gin cocktail. The other history, more in line with the drink that we're trying today, goes back to the legendary Trader Vic, one of the founding fathers of Polynesian pop. This history is a little less nailed down and just says that he made it sometime in the 40s or 50s or 60s, and it was a mix of light rum and dark rum and gold rum with several secret ingredients. See, at the height of the tiki bar movement, a couple of different guys vied for all-powerful potentate. There was Don the Beachcomber and Trader Vic. They were the two at the top of the pile. Many, if not most, of their drinks were described on their menus as having the base spirit, such as rum, and secret ingredients. So it was a lot like you've been invited to your grandma's for cheesecake, but you weren't allowed to watch her make it. And you should just be grateful that you got to put it in your mouth. Well, tonight we're going with the rum concoction. Maybe on a later episode I'll try the whiskey variation and I'll compare the two. For tonight's drink we will need Pusser's rum, a gold rum, I'm using Mount Gay Eclipse, an overproof rum, a orange curacao, I'm using Cointreau, orgeat, I'm using Trader Vic's almond syrup, limes, and orange. I don't have an orange right now. They're not in season. I have an orange tree, but there's no oranges on it at the moment. So you're going to have to forgive me for committing the great sacrilege of using bottled orange juice. But hey, you got the limes. Now right off the bat, I'm looking at all these ingredients and I'm thinking Mai Tai. And I'm fairly well versed in the flavor of the Mai Tai. So I'll let you know if this drink is really close. If it is, that's going to give me more of an incentive to try the whiskey variation. Just saying. Should we try this? I think we've all suffered long enough. Start off with 2 ounces of Pusser's. I love that sound. Two ounces of gold rum. One ounce of Ray and Ting's Overproof 151. Careful with this shit. You know, if gas gets any more expensive, you could probably run your car on this. And 1 ounce of orange curacao. I'm using Cointreau. Half an ounce of orgeat. 1 ounce of lime. Throw some ice in there. And now shake it. Strain. For the garnish, throw in that spent lime shell and get a sprig of mint. You gotta wake it up first, like it's late for watch. Wake the fuck up. And there it is. The suffering bastard. Here's to David and everyone over at the Yuba Sutter Arts Council. They've been absolutely indispensable to my artistic journey. Cheers, guys. You should probably refrain from smoking around this. I think if I had it to do over again, I would cut that overproof rum in half. That's like a Mai Tai on steroids. Woo. Not since the days of the first Manhattan has my esophagus felt so put upon. But once you get past the initial pain and discomfort, the tropical fruitiness kind of takes over, and it's really quite good. It is really quite good. I wouldn't drink more than one of these. Not two. I wouldn't drink more than two of these. Or four. Sorry, that was me. Speaking of suffering bastards, I once broke my foot and then went out to sea for 3 months like a total trooper. Well, this started at the end of February 2009, the day before the PRT, in fact. Physical readiness test, that is. I was out on the aft missile deck, pulling a paint barge along the side of the ship, all by me onesie, as Jack Sparrow likes to say. Because as the LPO, I always tried to ensure that my guys got time off before going out to sea. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Well, when it worked, they didn't know that there was a price, and when it didn't work, well, I was just an asshole. Anyway, the next day was PRT, and the day after that we were getting underway to a deployment to the South China Sea because Kim Jong-un sucks my ass. I'm sure he'll pop up again in story time with boats. Fucker. It was about 16:30. That's 4:30 p.m. for all you civilians out there. And it was heaving this barge along when who should appear but this mousy little shipmate named Calderon. Calderon, he's a good guy. He's a good kid. He was a brand new sailor, still had a lot to learn, but he was pliable and amenable to instruction. For the most part, anyway. On the other hand, he could be a little absent-minded. Anyway, he came up the ladder to the missile deck while I was heaving away on this barge, and he called over to me, "Feed him 2 birds." Well, I looked over and saw him and immediately knew. See, back then I knew what the hell was going on around me, unlike now. I don't have a famous clue. A Seaman Calderon was not where Seaman Calderon was supposed to be. Calderon, shouldn't you be at dental? Well, just as I said this, let me set the stage here. I was on the starboard side of the ship, pulling the barge forward. I had the line, the rope for all you land lovers, over my right shoulder, walking forward as I pulled. Calderon came up the ladder on the port side, about 55 feet away. My foot slipped off the gunwale onto the deck for the starboard whip antenna. When my foot landed, I heard a horrible crack. I knew this noise. I knew it from the time I absolutely mangled my hand using a drill named Big Bertha on the USS Peleliu. That's a story for another story time with boats. A sharp pain, like I was being electrocuted, radiated up my leg, socked me in the medulla oblongata like Joe Louis going after Max Schmeling's nose. But not wanting to seem like a total Nancy in front of my guys, I kept moving like nothing happened. Still, Calderon was sharp enough, and he saw and he knew. "Boats, are you all right?" "Yeah." "Get your ass to dental." Well, he went back down the ladder, and it was just me and the seagulls in the sunset, the paint barge, and the absolutely unbearable pain. I knew that tomorrow was PRT, and I needed to pass this PRT in order to be promoted. I needed to pass the PRT in order to stay in the Navy. The day after that, we got underway. I decided to sit on this, literally. So the next day, I took 2 Motrin, 2 Tylenol, 2 aspirin, and chased it with a gin and tonic. And I showed up to PRT. Let's be clear, I think the statute of limitations have passed. Well, I ran my PRT, crying most of the way. But I did it. That afternoon, I went to the Naval Hospital in Yokosuka and had x-rays taken. The day after that, we got underway. Just as we got clear of Sagami 1, I was approached by the ship's corpsman, and she told me that Yokosuka Naval Hospital had contacted the ship and said that I needed to be medevaced. They said this was because I broke my foot, and she was on the way to discuss this with the captain and the executive officer. Well, this came as no shock to me. I couldn't lace up my boot. My foot was dark purple and about 4 times the normal size. I mean, it was broke. In the meantime, I went to the bosun locker to splice some mooring lines. A few minutes later, over the 1MC, I was ordered to medical. Well, I hobbled my broke ass down to medical where the corpsman was waiting. You know what she said? She said that the CO and the XO said they really needed me for this underway. She had my fingers on all sorts of pies. I wore quite a lot of hats. I was in charge of deck evolutions. I was in charge of the flight deck. I was one of only 3 guys aboard qualified to refuel the helicopter. And I was leader of the flying squad. The list goes on and on. Well, on the one hand, it was good to hear that I was needed. On the other hand, my foot kind of hurt. The corpsman went on to state that the XO said that he thought I was a tough guy, and he's sure I could handle this. Again, on the one hand, it felt good to hear that everyone thought I was tough. On the other hand, my foot kind of hurt. And then she said that they didn't believe my foot was broken anyway, and had sent a message back to the hospital saying it was likely just sprained. I could have done without that bit of information. So for 3 months, I went out on that broken ass foot, slogging through typhoons, in sharp pain and overall discomfort. I worked and my foot stayed so swollen that my boot had to be laced loosely. But I did my job with no griping. Well, minimum griping. Okay, just less than excessive griping. As soon as we pulled back into Yokosuka, they sent me directly to the hospital, where I got new x-rays and waited for word. Finally, a full bird captain came up with I don't know how many ribbons. More than me. I just remember that one of the ribbons was a Vietnam service medal. Well, he stares at the x-rays, the original and the new one that just got taken. And without even looking up, tells me, whoever told you this was a sprain is a fucking moron. His words. Well, he looked up and asked me, who told you this was a sprain? And I said, my chain of command. He shook his head and brought me over to see the x-rays. And he pointed to 2 bones in the middle of my foot. And he says to me, you see those bones? That's the navicular. It's supposed to be one fucking bone. I like the cut of his jib. Well, he thought about it for a minute. Said, I guess I can put a cast on you. Give you a boot. I mean, it's too late to try to get this to heal properly, but at least they can't make you go back out to sea. So I had that done, and I watched my ship sail away without me a week later, not even realizing it would be the last time I ever would see the USS McCampbell, or the last time I would even go to sea. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of my time as a suffering bastard. That would not be the last time I would go to sea. See? I'm going to be spending the next 3 weeks before the mast aboard the Lady Washington as an artist in residence. Now I do need help getting there and back. And my link to the GoFundMe page to help me out is in the description and also in the comments. Donations of $100 will get a signed and numbered print of one of the paintings that I create during my time as artist in residence aboard Lady Washington. Donations of $300 or more will get an original drawing made while I was aboard Lady Washington.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning.
still had a lot to learn. Oh my God, there's an ant. Fuck that guy. Yeah. I'm okay. Oh, are we still on? A medevac would involve a helicopter. I hate helicopters. I have watched them crash with my own peepers. And I really believe that they offend the laws of physics as well as the laws of God. I mean, here you have this several thousand-pound hunk of equipment hanging from these whirly blades like some sort of propeller hat. And how do the blades turn without making the helicopter spin around on its own axis? And then you take this several thousand-pound hunk of junk hanging from a propeller and suspended in midair. Like gravity is some sort of fucking joke. This is not my bag. But I digress.